with each other. Few questions which I have in mind for Kushag. Once we introduce Kushag, we'll start with my set of questions. Then Kushag can take it up with me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
and also I think Madhu, you can feel free to have questions with us. We can just keep it a casual conversation. Like we are
Sure.
no biggies in that way, so there's no set of paradigms that this is what the set of protocol that we have to follow. I'll
Yeah.
just quickly introduce myself. Hi guys, I'm Kushagra. Fortunately, unfortunately, I'm a good friend of Arpan's, and I'm right now been working in Japan for the last 6 years. I'm also a graduate of design from IIT Guwahati, but I moved to Japan to pursue my dream of making anime in Japan. So I've been working in Japan since last 6 years making anime. So it's been a like altogether different shift to go from IIT to the anime side of the journey. But apart from that, I've been venturing into the blockchain Web3 space since last 2.5 years, and I'm a founding team member of a startup called Metasky that is actually working on building loyalty Web3 loyalty programs for different brands and IPs altogether. And my role here right now is working as a business development lead and head of Japan for the startup, and also getting more and more businesses from Japan and the APAC region. So my expertise comes in the field of most definitely the creativity side of things as an artist, but apart from that, trying to navigate the Japanese market and understanding the GTM and know-how of how to, kind of onboard any Japanese businesses and clients on board.
Sounds great. You say creative, and we see proof right there. There are some musical instruments in the background.
Yeah, this is my the working room basically. So right now I have this little tablet where I draw, and this is my space where I make music. So yeah, this is my worship space altogether.
Great.
Awesome.
So Kushag, let's start off with the question. I have few important and thought-provoking questions that I have for you, and
Yeah.
I've seen you from past 1.5 years. You've been building a lot of things during this bear market, as we say. Uh,
Um,
what is the few important aspects of building a company in bear market? Could you walk us through your experience?
so yeah, definitely. I think facing the brunt of the bear market is been upon us with everyone. And
Correct.
since I've been to the Web3 space, probably a lot of people associate Web3 with crypto, ideally. So I think everyone saw the crash of crypto and how, a lot of the industry has been suffering and bleeding because, how people have perceived building in the bear market, or kind of cashing out on the opportunities of the people who have been trying to develop. But I think there's definitely as well as upsides in the bear market as well, because for from my perspective of things, the people who are building right now are the ones who mean business, are the ones who are there to stay for longer terms. And as someone who has been trying to build in the bear market, definitely we when the bull was there, there's so much of chaotic noise around, and you have the fun of building things in the sense that you get the user traction, and you have a set of data points that you are able to kind of nurture every day, right? So every day when you get up, you see your product being used by the people in and out, and you're like, okay, so there's a good amount of traction going in the market. But then when the bear comes in, there's like, yeah, where did everyone go altogether? But I think resilience is something which is tested in the bear market quite a lot, because if you are good enough in terms of your plan, a long-term plan, basically. Um, this is a big phenomenon that the people who build in the bear market have a long-term vision and are not there just for making short-term profits, right? And I think with me myself, we have been able to test and diversify ourselves in terms of how we want to venture into the any sort of field with a product, and also make certain experiments, because right now you can say that probably the curtains are down altogether from the user side of things. So I think bear market definitely gives you that scope of experimentation with the product, and kind of user testing and those kind of things, which probably might not be as easy in the bull market altogether. And I think apart from that, one good thing in the bear market is that probably most of the people lose jobs, so it's easier to get any such resource, hiring a resource and getting things on board. Though you as a startup also have lack of funds, but then you understand that it's the entire market which has been suffering or bleeding altogether. So yeah, I mean, those are some of the key points I think which are important to understand how you're building any product in the bear market. But it also kind of changes the perspective that investors start perceiving you, because you
Correct.
understand that it's not for the builders and founders, it's also for the investors. The market is there for everyone, right? The users as well.
Yes.
So we have equally been affected by the facing the brunt of it. So I think this is something which has been my learnings, seeing discounted acquisitions around in the market and understanding, the assets which are overpriced in the bull market, their reality comes over in the bear market, like, oh, what exactly was the so there's a saying that if you've picked up money in the bull market, raised money in the bull market, then you have done a tremendous job. Like one common phenomenon with an example I would say is that when I was talking to one of the investors, and he's a good friend of mine, he's an angel investor. So he's been telling me that in the bull market, while he used to get like 3 or 4 pitch decks every day, the sum has gone to almost 80 to 90 pitch decks every day that he gets in the bear market, because everyone is trying to accumulate funds from the nook and corner of the market, right? So I think this is another kind of an overlooking aspect of how the bear markets are kind of reacting with the people altogether. But yeah, I mean, more or less, I think just like a mathematical equation, a minima follows the maxima. So I think
Mhm.
been here in the bear market for quite long. So the ones who are building right now would be ready when the bull comes back, right? So in that regards, you will have because what also happens because of the word of mouth, how it travels around for the people who are building the bear. When the bull comes back, people are able to look through, like, okay, these guys have been staying in the market for the last 3 years. So the word of mouth travels faster, and the people are able to kind of recognize your value as a brand more easily as compared to other ones who have trying to just poach the opportunity to kind of make the profits in the bull market. So yeah, that's my little
Correct.
understanding of how, yeah, I
I
think
think I think Yeah, I agree with you on this part because I've seen various companies that we see now are making news in India, such as Zomato, Flipkart. These
yeah,
all startups have seen a bear market, in their
yes,
last year, and
yep,
they have paved their way through it, and that
yeah,
is why we are able to, now hear what they have created in India. So that's
yep.
true. Correct.
Yes.
Interesting.
Any insights you have, Madhu, on this?
Do you have any questions for Arpan Khush?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've written down my set of questions.
Yeah,
So
I'm also making note. I'll ask the two of you after a while.
yeah, so Arpan, my first question to you would be like, what kind of strategies do you think startups can or should deploy, to build resilience and in the face of the market volatility and uncertainty in the market altogether?
Correct. So I'll break this part. I have thought about it a lot of times in the recent from the time the bear market hit. I've understood various things that we or any startup should do, some through experience and some through reading and understanding what other people are deploying. So I've broken down majorly this whole scenario into three part. I've understood. So for a startup in bear market, the revenue takes a hit. They do not grow year on year or month on month in the same speed like they used to grow in the bull market, right? So what we, fortunately, having worked with a unicorn called Shiprocket recently, so I've understood how it is important to diversify your income source. If you already have a core business, diversify around it. How you can
Yeah,
create branches of revenue which could increase your overall revenue, maybe in small sum compared to your the larger sum of revenues, but at the end, these small tranches of revenues would add up and create new business line for you. And your growth may be, if not comparable to the bull market, it would still be, in a better phase than it was supposed to be. And the second part, which I understood in your core business, since you are not going to get new customers as people are not going to spend more and more, everyone is facing with this economic downturn. So they'll not be spending more and more. So what you should do is you should stick and make sure that you retain your existing customer. Strategy around retaining, for that you need to understand what the customer needs, whether you are building around your customer or not. It's a good time to there are various I'll take example of companies like Razorpay, wherein uh, RBI has supposedly stopped new onboarding due to some regulations for the time being. What they have built around their existing business is remarkable. They have made sure that in India, 5 times the transaction that are happening at the moment, they are going to be able to handle that. They've created technology around that. So that is how a company should think for their existing customer. If I am not able to get new businesses on board, then I'd make sure that I have this current set of cohort for a longer period of time. The third, which I consider very, very, very important, is you know your team should have a clear purpose and a sense of why they are doing it. And that's something it's so important. I've seen good companies shattering at pressure situations because their team did not stay together. So for that, and that cannot happen in a day, in a day or in a month or in a year. So if you or your company has a clear sense of purpose throughout the time they have built during bull runs and during bear runs, then only a company would be able to create a set of employees who can sustain such pressure, sustain such conditions, and make sure that they pull together. If everyone everyone works at a different direction, your company will not be able to sail through this difficult times. Everyone has to come together and work on a single direction, and that only happens when everyone has a same purpose while working, or clear sense of why they are working. So these are the three things that I personally feel, and I've seen through experience, and also getting to know, read about a lot of companies and what strategies they have deployed. Yeah.
Funny thing, we never had this conversation before. One of the angel investors for Razorpay was Mr. Hiro Mashita-san. So he's like a Japanese, like I know him for the last 2 years. He was
Okay.
like one of the first angel investors. He's famous in India for called, I think, the super angel in India, because he has almost invested in more than 50 or 60 startups in India.
Mhm.
So he also told me about the same thing. I think he exited at a good profit with Razorpay altogether. So I
Mhm.
remembered my conversation with him, like, what was your advice? Because he made like 100x profit when he was exiting from Razorpay. And he told me like, this was the same point what he told me about was diversifying your sources of income and
Mhm.
kind of expanding your business arms while going into the market, because the onus upon the firm or the startup to make sure that more and more businesses are actually looping onto your platform and coming and using you as the source of any kind of integration that they have to do for their own users. So I think, yeah, this is actually also kind of the connotation sets it perfectly what he told me as well. Yeah.
Uh, those who of those of you don't know what Razorpay is a fintech startup in India, and I think you'd have a look at what they have done from from starting till now, and you'd be amazed with the journey. I really loved the thought process of their founders and how the company has taken turns during different times. So they've seen it's a Y Combinator startup as well, incubated. I
Yeah.
think first in India. It was the first India's first YC backed, if I'm not wrong. I maybe, but yeah. So it's a good
Yeah.
startup. Everyone should know about it, what they do, and everything. Yeah.
Great.
Awesome.
Good to know that, Arpan. Cogent has partnered with Razorpay. We use
Oh,
Razorpay.
nice,
So
nice,
yeah, some of us are aware of it.
great.
But we didn't know
Nice.
the backstory. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So you said a team that sticks together will win, right? How, do
Correct.
you have such a team? And if yes, how did you build a team like this?
So I was fortunate enough when I came to Picker, I actually was building something new. We were planning to build a long tail kind of customers, wherein we would have a good gross margin, increase our top line and bottom line both. and that was the strategy before the bear market hit. So we were trying to prepare for bear markets, wherein if we have a cash crunch, we have our bottom line and top line secured. And that is when I thought, if we are going to make a team that stick for 5 6 years together, at least, so we have to make sure that we have a clear sense of purpose. And I started building with two members. We were doing, what about 4 lakh or 5 lakh rupees revenue a month, scaled it up to 10 CR revenue per month with that team. And that team grew almost 20x from, 2 people to we were 42 43 people. And it's important. I created, I made sure that we have a clear circle of safety, wherein a person needs to help the person right next to him or her, whether be it left or right. We need to make sure that the person beside me is not having a bad day. See, it's basically everyone should understand that no one wakes up in the morning and say ki today I'll do worst kind of work for my company. No one does that. Everyone wakes up, thinks that I want to do good work. So it's important to think that, and along with empathy, some might have bad days, some might not have that kind of knowledge which you have. So in that cases, you always try and create a circle of safety where people can ask questions or ask for help, and other people should be very, if people start asking for help, the other people obviously start helping them, and they then do not, a combination of politics or toxic work culture doesn't appear. And then give them why we are doing it. I told them how, where we want to go. We were, 500, 600 customers, monthly active users. We B2B, 500 monthly active users. We had to take it to 10,000 monthly active users, B2 businesses, not just, B2C users. It needs to be businesses. So we took it, everyone had that aim that we in 2 years we need to reach here, and they had a circle of safety, they had a sense of purpose, and that is how we were able to scale this big. And I think hands down everything belongs to the team. At the end, there is nothing being done because of leader. As a leader, you are just there to take care of your team, because you or any management people will never take care of their clients. It's the people who are working for them. They talk to clients, they take care of it. So at the end, if you take care of your people, people will automatically take care of your clients. So that's the thought process I've implemented and made sure that everyone around me and everyone in the team feels the same. Yeah.
I think that's a very good answer, Arpan. I think I read this quote somewhere, like when for any company that is operating, think of the people who are working, they're not a group of people, but the word team. So team is a very important word because everyone looks after each other in those forms. And, the sense of ownership
Correct.
and responsibility towards your peers is something which drives the core value of your organization, right? So, I mean, from
Correct.
any kind of organization, from sense of sports or from the sense of, how the countries actually delegate all the issues between themselves. I think this is something which applies to any sort of organization, irrespective of the startup culture or anywhere. So yeah, very really good point.
So I think if no one has any else questions, so I have a question for you, Kushag. I was hoping to ask you this. Basically, so you are already working on various products. I've seen you, not just here, earlier also, and during our college days. I've seen you working for a product, be it a tech product or a art as a product, if I may say. So what are the key metrics do you think that makes a product successful? I would love to know that.
I mean, I think for most of the people, I think that's a very fundamental question. And of course, like when we talk of like what are the key metrics, I think from our understanding, for irrespective of whatever industry that you're working in, and I'll throw in some jargons here definitely, because I learned it big way myself when I was coming in to understand the product side of things. But yeah, to understand that what you're trying to build. So I was attending this Ethereum Tokyo in like 4 months ago, and then I met the founder of IPFS, called 1 Minute, and he told me a very good thing that Kushagra, I think whenever you're trying to build a product, make sure that you have 100, not maybe 100, maybe 1,000 core users of the product or the fans of the product, right? In those regards, that you don't have to plan on scaling the product altogether at the first go, but there has to be some sort of a stickiness with the users with the product. So you need to have those core 1,000 fans who are there to do and kind of come to your product and give you the right and all the right feedback what you are trying to do. And in terms of how you are scaling the product, definitely different kinds of ideas come into place. For example, in terms of how you are responding towards your customers, is there a like there's something called a net promoter score, NPS, where if the customers who are using the product, are they talking to other peers about the product or not? And the most common used words in this area is like the CAC and the LTV. Like, how is the CAC looking like, the customer acquisition cost, and LTV is the lifetime value of the customers, right? So basically those kind of things, and how you're determining the arbitrage between these two items, and making sure that there's a sort of a I would say a more like a personal affinity that the user has with the product. For example, let's say any product that we have right now. Let's just talk about like a hand wash soap, right? So ever since the Corona times came over, the hand wash soaps have really been very detrimental in how they have been kind of catering to the customers, not just from the sense of branding, but also from the sense of what kind of USPs they provide for the customer, for their users altogether. So I think in those regards, kind of understanding what connotation your product is going to be like, and understanding what is your how you are actually catering to your customers, because also in India we have this saying called in Hindi we say like your customers are your god, right? So you have to make sure that you are able to cater to them at all senses of their needs. But apart from that, definitely from all senses of views, you also have to understand what kind of market you are actually going to cater to, and what is your market share when you are actually launching a product in that market, right? And then some other things come up is like what is the churn rate for your product, in terms of other customers stopping to use your product after a certain while, or like are they still sticking around to use it for the longer time altogether. And but definitely if from the sense of data that you are determining, the most important one is the, like you said already, the DAU and MAUs, right? Like what are the DAO and MAUs? Because you cannot say that I have built a product. I think building a product is a different thing, and scaling is a different part altogether. People must understand that. Sometimes people focus too much on just the building aspect of things, and not on communicating those functionalities or efficiencies of the product to the customers. I think there's a design philosophy called form follows function. So when you are trying to build a product, you have to think of the function first. People start thinking, like, I've met so many young people that I meet, and they're like, okay, I'm building a product which is an application on this. I said, why did you decide that it's going to be an application? It could not be even be an application. Probably the problem could be solved by a phone call, right? So I think that's one of the first things that people understand, is that this thing, like, probably it's a tech thing, so it has to be an application first, and which has a that's the first thing that comes to the mind of the people. They has to have a login dashboard and things kind of things. So I'm like, dude, probably don't even need an application in the first place. You have to understand what kind of functionality you are solving. And I think one big thing your product should be doing is solving one problem at least, like this one core problem or one core mechanic that you are able to cater to. I mean, I'm saying this from the sense of a game as well, like because I'm a big gamer, and when I look at games as a product, for example, if you look at, if I don't know if you guys have heard of this game called God of War, right? So when you're playing that game, there's one core mechanic that product solves, that it makes you really powerful. Like, for why I would play that game again and again is because I feel like I'm a god of anything I can do, right? So it actually makes me imagine that kind of aspect that I could not really have in my real life, right? So you to give your customer that kind of satisfaction by using whatever you are building for them, I think has to be the prime metric altogether. And apart from that, definitely when from the different perspectives, the market is like, what is the retention rate looking like? I think I saw and I learned it from this amazing series called The Office, where Ryan tells Michael Scott, like, to retain a customer is far cheaper than to bring on new customer on board, right? So yeah, I mean, so I think those are some of the metrics that help you understand that how the product needs to perform. And definitely, I like the one thing that should be there, and without fail, and this is the most important thing, it should have a product market fit, right? So if you're trying to build a product without a set of targeted audience, without defining a user persona of the customers, I think you will just fail at all ends and like fall on your face altogether. So I think, yeah, these are some of the really important points altogether, I understand, for any product in the sense of design, irrespective of whatever industry you are kind of building in.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think, as you
Questions,
rightly mentioned,
Yeah, sorry, Arpan, what were you saying?
yeah, I was just saying, Kushak, that as you rightly mentioned, retaining, that was in my very first point as well, that retaining
Yeah.
customers
Right.
has to be a, solid thing. And without any MAUs or DAUs, your product is nothing if there is no one to use, right? I think you
Yeah.
have correctly pointed out all the aspects that I wanted to know. Thanks for that. Any
Yeah.
questions from anyone else in the comments or anywhere?
Team, any questions or anything you would like to add?
Yeah, definitely. So just a second. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, it's an excellent conversation. Amazing. Each sentence both of you spoke meant a lot. That shows, reflects your experience. So, I mean, the startup journey is, pretty, rugged and, yeah, I think a very few, we already know that, probably the success rate is, less than 10%. So is there any framework or any kind of protocol that can tangibly help the startup companies to really, make sure that they're in the right path? That it sounds, it acts like a kind of sounding board to make sure that they are heard and somebody is guiding. Uh, Other than the individual expertise that we bring the people together for startups as such, are there any certain best practices, or I'm more talking about not the reading material, but any organization or any group of people that can really tangibly support, of course, at a cost or something? Do you know of any like that?
So, fortunately enough, one of my very good friend is currently leading the business aspect of Razorpay Rise, and that's I think that is they're doing tremendous job on helping startup establish and then preparing for their, let's say, funding rounds, or preparing how to see their bottom line, top line, or gross margins, the jargons that we were talking about. Not everyone knows those jargon, and I think everyone needs to work on their basics first. So they help uh, the entire team to make sure that we are ready for all the if we are going for some funding rounds also, or if we are going to create a legal entity or something of that sort. Those kind of things I think are being taken care of by them. And apart from that, I think after you know once the generative AI has hit the entire startup ecosystem, there are a lot of tools that have come up to automate. So if a startup founder starts thinking, or it's not just founder, anyone who's working in a startup starts to think, what are my tasks for the day, and how and which of the things I can automate through the current AI tools that are freely available, or paid tools. That is how we should start thinking, and that is how we can also decrease our cost and increase our time bracket where we can actually think and do brainstorming. So that I think might help people, because we were not having such kind of apps or such kind of resources earlier, which we have now.
Yeah, I think that really makes sense. I think adding to that, in terms of the framework that I have personally followed is, and this is also we touch this aspect in trying to understand the GTM strategy for any product altogether. Is that how you are actually defining success metrics for your product. Like in my last point, probably having a DAU MAU might not even be a success metric altogether, because for example, I'll not try to take the name of this startup right now, which is out of India, and they tried to do this refer to one kind of campaign to get the users on board. And it was working in this area of trading finance, traditional finance, basically. So what they did was they did this refer to one kind of campaign that if you just come on board as a user, you get some amount of local tokens or Indian currency. And what happened in those regards, they had huge amount of users coming onto the platform, but none of them had the trading capacity as a user. So they were like 13, 14-year-old kids who are like just downloading the application, coming on board as a user, right? So I mean, without even me saying the name, I think everyone of the people who know, they know. So yeah, I mean, like you definitely have to understand this. What are the success metrics that you're going to use as your fundamental framework when you're trying to, kind of make sure that you are going to rise the startup. Something that I would also like to touch is basically the KPIs that you set for yourselves on a daily basis, or for your team peers. And there's one more thing called OKRs. If someone has read about this, called objectives and key results, right? So how you define your objectives and what are the key results that you need to make sure that objectives are achieved in due time, right? And I mean, the people do not play or much stress to this, but I think time is very efficient, because your time to market and how you are going to kind of pitch your product out. Like everyone wants to have an early mover advantage, right? And because like in the industry, in any aspect of the field, the ones who have the early mover advantage are the ones who are the biggest names in the industry, right?
Correct.
So I think these are some of the things, and then definitely talking to some GTM experts and the people who have done it beforehand in terms of understanding, how your product needs to be legitimized for the audiences, and making sure that if like I think if there's any sort of compliance issue or any regulations around the market that you're trying to get yourself into. So I think having that framework into mind probably helps you kind of navigate the market in a better way. And definitely, I mean, capital is a huge plus, so probably having some kind of a advisor or an investor on board gives you the good amount of credibility, like for ourselves as startup with Metasky, we have Sequoia Capital as our investors. So when we actually approach some of the business people, so it gives them assurance that probably working with Sequoia, they might have the right people who are advising them, and they have a good amount of backing. So I think those are some of the key ideation points that I think that come into the framework for people implementing their startups.
Yeah, very wise. Thank you both for your inputs. And I want to, discuss more on one point that you mentioned earlier. It's about diversifying the revenue streams, in the bear market. So, can you give any, without naming the startup, also you can do it where any case study or an example of what was the core focus and how they diversified.
So I'll pick this one because, and I'll give the name as well, because I am currently working for that startup, that is Shiprocket. And
I hope you've not signed any NDA, Arpan.
no, no, so the reason is because I like the mentality of what as a company they want to do, and the core value is to help D2C community in any way possible wherever they can find. So they started off with these all things are mostly said in one of the podcasts by the founders of Shiprocket itself. So I'm not saying anything new, but what I'll just concise it for everyone, and in a nice concept context is, so they started off as creating websites 5-7 years back, wherein their website or Shopify as a word was not cool in India, or it was just growing, right? It was just, people were starting to learn about it. So they started from creating website. They understood that this is not the core problem, because Shopify is going to solve this problem in today or tomorrow's world, and they have a huge app base, so they can be better. They can solve it in a better way rather than they doing it. So they moved into the second problem, which was at first it was just a subsidiary services, that is logistics. They understood that people get orders through marketing. Now it needs to flow to other their customers as well. So they went into last mile logistics by aggregating a lot of logistic players. That was a good problem statement they understood. So, cut short 5, 6 years down the lane, present today, they have a good huge base of core logistics, wherein almost all D2C brand which are building themselves in India or going to build or have built would have heard the name Shiprocket. That is how huge or humongous they have built the brand. Uh, but they understood that this has now become stagnant, or the rate at which they are growing with just logistics is not, what they expect themselves to grow. Apart from that, they still thought that we have solved a major problem, but there are various other problems that no one is solving. Or if someone is solving, there is no whole stack of products where people can come in, people can choose the kind of product they want to use for their entire e-commerce, and then build your own business kind of model. So they started diversifying. They went into, payment gateway or checkout. They went into then they made sure that there is a whole WhatsApp communication that is being set for for their clients, so that their clients can build a brand around it. Whenever order is out for delivery, customized WhatsApp message to be sent. Such all products they built on top of their logistics, and that is how they diversified their entire business. Now there are 3, 4 business lines that are equally growing. One is, I'll say, they started international shipping also. So they were doing Indian logistics or country logistics. Now they started doing international logistics. They understood that we can pick the parcel and drop the parcel somewhere. They thought people might have a problem of storing those parcels somewhere. So they went into fulfillment also. So that's how diversify. It's not like I was doing X and I'll, start leave everything aside and start doing Y. Totally different. So you have to diverge from the path, your co-path, into subsidiary paths, which is somehow interlinked. And that is why people will trust you. Not everyone becomes, Tata Group, wherein they produce car, they produce salt, they produce anything, they produce clothes, people will buy it. But no one would buy a BMW salt or a cars company salt in general. So not everyone becomes Tata. So people need to understand they need to diversify from their core branch, core strength only. So I
Yeah,
think
I
I've
think
answered what. Uh,
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think Arpan really made sense. From my perspective, I think there's this company which started as a communication channel between factory workers and factory owners, basically, right? And it became a social media platform which had a logo of a bird, basically. And now they have a logo of an alphabet altogether. So that is like a big, big example of how diversification helped them grow from where they are today, from where they were and where they are today. And I think one of the key examples is ourselves at Metasky. I think from where we started building the product, I think the first product we came out was one of the wallets, a custodial wallet that we built for the Web3 customers to onboard. But then soon we understood that the wallet is actually a buzzword which is going around the market, and definitely having customers on board would be a thing. But then when you actually become a customer user yourself, you understand that probably having a hold of different kinds of wallets would not be just ideal solution, because people really do not want to tend to hold different wallets. I would really not want to have multiple wallets in my own mobile phone, for example. So then we diversified in terms of we went along the x-axis and worked upon finding more loopholes for though there are so many wallets existing, but how are you interacting between the wallets, and what are the in the field of where I can speak, in the field that I'm working for NFTs and Web3 kind of market, what are the loopholes for the users of NFTs or the holders of NFTs, and probably having a payment rails integrated or on ramp off ramp tools kind of things. So to understand those things, we actually started to understand our users more, and then diversified and probably launching other side product, which actually enables your, or not enables, probably adds a more kind of value in the primary product that you're using. So I think in that regards, now we have an early mover advantage. What we are building, what we call ourselves as a Metaverse Studio. So basically, and I'm not going to shill anymore about my startup here, but yeah, in those grounds, diversifying also comes from the understanding that they probably whatever product you're building is definitely kind of go out and give a network effect with the people. And then the way they are actually going to interact with each other will open up new dimensions of understanding of how the product can be utilized. So because I think this is a one bias that you always have, founder bias, when you're building a product. So you always want your particular product to be used by the user in one way, but when you actually go and become a user, you understand that probably your user never thought of it in that way, right? Altogether. So I think that is also one of the points when diversification helps you kind of nurture yourself. And I think the investors and even the people, or like the companies who have diversified themselves, have had a better market share or profitable factor into them, rather than the ones who have been just been kind of sticking to their one point of growth. And I think to a lot of people, they sometimes refer to this word as pivoting to something else. So yeah, I think diversification has helped a lot of startups. One of my friends also recently diversified themselves. They were actually working on in the Web3 space again. They were working on a product tool for DAO. There's an application called Discord, basically what people use in the programming language worlds. So they were building an alternate for Discord, but they understood more or less that the users have a high affinity for Discord altogether. So what they did was, apart from keeping their standalone structure of what they were trying to do, they diversified in creating more additional modules, which actually enabled them to kind of integrate these modules as a SaaS product onto the existing Discord community. So, in that regards, probably just providing your APIs and SDKs became a diversification model for them altogether. So yeah, I mean, I would say diversification helps your startup because you're thinking of A and probably solutions B. So definitely working along different verticals helps you go along the guidelines of how you want to grow. Okay, I think
Yeah.
I'll ask a question. Yeah. Sorry. If there's any question, if not, then I'll ask just
Oh,
one
no,
question.
no. I mean,
think-
excellent. Yeah. So, no,
Thank you.
excellent inputs. Thank you. And yeah, please continue.
No, thank you. So I think, Arpan, and I think I have had this conversation with you quite so often, but probably this is the right forum for this because your expertise comes into the D2C market, right? So how do you think that the startups probably understand the D2C economics, or the market understanding of how you actually scale a D2C business? And probably an overview of how the startups should be looking towards expanding into this sector of the area, and what are the challenges also involved?
Makes sense. So first, for everyone, I'd drill it down. What D2C is? D2C is simple, direct to customer. So we all have seen a retail environment while we were growing up. We would see a kirana shop or a mom pop shop, or a store, departmental store, wherein we can go and buy stuffs. And there used to be a chain of commands through which that product used to reach that particular shop. So it used to be produced in a factory, then it used to go to someone else, then someone else, and then it used to come to the shops. So direct to consumer thought, why would we have this particular loop? We should directly be able to sell it to the customers from, let's say, factory. Ideal version would be, once it is made in factory, I'll pick up and drop it in my customer's house. That should be the ideal space or way D2C works, but obviously we are not living in a ideal world. So there comes, so this is what D2C is. There were brands. It was very, the earlier version was quite myopic, given the retail or offline model was limited to certain companies or certain big brands or giants who could control the supply chain, who could control, put up multiple factories, increase, decrease their market demand and market conditions. So through D2C, people could sell everything on website, on their, create a Shopify website. So everything was happening in parallel. There were last mile companies that are being built, like delivery, Blue Dart, enhancing their D2C commerce. Then there were companies like Shopify, WooCommerce, who were helping people make simple websites. There were tech companies, or there were independent marketing consultants coming up who were honed in digital marketing, right? So the the timing was perfect for India to get into, D2C, and they did. And a lot of D2C brand came up, and which made for them market access was very easy. So, D2C enabled the customers not only to reach Indian consumers, they were able to reach, foreign countries like US, UK, etc. If just a small example would be makhana. It's a very, a traditional dish that is being produced in Bihar mostly. And, currently it is being exported very heavily in US. It is seen as alternative to popcorn, a healthier alternative to popcorn, which India has been consuming, from years and years. So this all happened because, people were able to scale their D2C businesses. It secondly brings brand control with them. Since I am selling to my consumers, I can have a whole brand theory. My packaging could reflect my brand. My marketing strategies or my branding strategies uh, can be in a way wherein I can appeal to my audiences. Not all products are for everyone to use, right? There can be there are various D2C companies into men's sexual wellness, female sexual wellness, etc., etc., and big companies being built, right? So that brand control was needed for D2C companies, which was not available on marketplaces or, through offline retailer model that we used to see. Then the data insights, no one was leveraging data in offline. Very limited data was available to new brands. Maybe, top big brands like ITC might have, Coca-Cola might have all the data available with them, but new D2C brands, it was difficult to get any hold of data. So no data insight based, decisions where they were able to make. And innovation is something that created this, right? Innovation led to this, and D2C companies in India are continuously innovating their supply chain because now they've understood everything. Now they are going to build or create operational excellence that everyone was striving for. And they need to, get their top line sorted, bottom line sorted. Top line is mostly sorted for a lot of D2C companies, but bottom line is something that they are looking at, and they are doing it through uh, adjusting themselves into operationally excellent or excellence company, right? They are trying to revamp their operations. They were trying to look out where they are leaking money, etc., etc. So these all things, D2C are trying to do. And I think particularly challenges which they are facing is D2C, currently is quite cluttered at, especially at a lot of domains like, makeup accessories or electronics, t-shirts, clothing, apparels, etc. Logistic is something very painful for them because a lot of companies do not understand what are the nuisances of logistic in India. It's not as simple as US. It's India is more cash on delivery heavy compared to US and other European countries, wherein it's more of a prepaid order delivery, prepaid heavy environment. So that's something, a problem that D2C is facing. Customer acquisition cost has become quite high, given a lot of competition from, big giants like Amazon, who are marketplaces, who also have a big name in online industry. So a lot of competition has come up, due to which their CAC generally tends to shoot up. And then a lot of companies, just because it's easy to create a brand loyalty or brand trust, doesn't mean that companies will be able to do it. So a lot of companies are finding it very difficult to create trust with their customers. These are the basic challenges that I have seen. Most of it, I feel, companies are not leveraging the technological aspects. New companies, mostly a bit mature D2C startups, have already started doing it, but new companies are currently not automating their operational processes. They are not automating a lot of things that they need to be successful. So these are the things that I feel how D2C or direct to consumer in India has evolved, and what are the key challenges with, because I've been speaking with a lot of founders from D2C community from past 2.5 years. So got a lot of insight, and mostly I've heard these are the points that everyone faces, and I tell everyone to focus on a lot of automation and leveraging the current tools that are available in the market. So that's something
I
I look at.
totally understand. I think there's also one theory about how your product is either a pull product or push product for the customers, right? Altogether, in
Correct,
when you
correct,
work.
correct.
And I think from my understanding of D2C also come in that most of the times with when your competitors are actually into the space and you understand that there are so many hands or like limited number of people that you want to cater to. There's always this chunk of population that everyone wants to go and have it, like probably a user of Amazon or like let's say top 5% of population of any country would be the ones that everyone is trying to go on to because they have the revenue providing
Well,
wealth
correct,
providing power.
correct.
So I think that is also something that all the D2C brands probably need to understand, that we are trying to poach the same set of customer set, and making the right product and also making sure that they have a high affinity for you. I think one point I really liked about the thing that you said is about having the control on how you want to kind of there's no filters involved, or like there are no
Correct,
layers in
correct,
between
correct.
customers directly. So you have to take all the feedback at the face value, and probably I think in terms of having a feedback, every feedback has to be a constructive criticism in all regards, because no customer is basically trying to bring you down for no random reason. So I think understanding those aspects help you definitely also in the D2C market. Yeah, very well said, Arpan. I
Correct.
think I like those insights.
Wonderfully explained. Thank you, Arpan. Any
Uh,
questions, team?
None from my end. But otherwise, yeah, it's a really great session. And what I would request the speakers also, if at all they have 15 more minutes, after we conclude the webinar, we want to extend the session for 15 more minutes, just with the private group meeting, where we want to showcase a live startup, because we work with a lot of startup companies. We want to
correct.
showcase a live startup where Gabby, joined just now. Gabby Santander. So she's going to talk about a startup that she is involved in. And we can have more realistic insights and we can have another discussion. So, but anyway, I will wait till this session is officially concluded and we are off, we are offline from the live session.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think I'll be okay with 15-20 more minutes. Kushag, are you
Kush, is
available?
that okay for you as well?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. No worries.
So, can we start?
Okay.
Any other questions,
Yes.
team? Any questions or feedback or something you would like to add? Okay. Kush, I have one question. You had
Yeah.
said that going online through an app is not the only source, right? What
Yeah.
else do you think new startups can do? If not an application, what else do you think they can do to get into the market? How do people realize that? How can people be made aware that something called this startup exists? If it's not
Uh,
through
so yeah, I think that's like a good question, I would say. So when I was saying that in order to uh, with the theory, I was saying that probably what people kind of misunderstand, that any form of a like tech solution could be the real way to uh, solve the problem in the market, right? For example, let's say like if you talk about this example of you want to you everyone of us use the car, right? And probably you say, okay, my car is punctured right now, and there's a loophole that I don't need to contact the mechanic, right? So probably if you're living in a small town and then trying to get a hold of a mechanic, so there are only a set of different mechanics who are limited to your region, right? And most of the times how it works in Indian subcontinent is that either if the mechanic knows you personally, they come to your house, or if not, you just take them nearby the vehicle. But you do not need to, like, I'm why I'm taking this example is when I was talking to this young kid, and he was sort of